All right, welcome back to another exciting episode for the Money Pillow. As always, I'm really excited, but today I'm really excited because I get a lot of people asking me why I only feature younger people, and I get a lot of younger males and white males or whatever, so I'm always on the search for people that kind of are outside of that mold that are doing things, and today I'm super excited. I have Misty. I hope you don't mind me revealing, but Misty is 51.
That's right.
And a restaurant owner, owns the restaurant's called The Squeeze In, which has locations in Reno and Truckee, California, and they're getting ready to open there's 4 locations, getting ready to open their 5th location in San Diego. She bought one restaurant. It's going to turn it into a chain about 10 years ago. It's primarily it's a breakfast joint with lunch as well. They're known for the best omelets on the planet. And she's grown this company massively in 10 years' time. She has a kind of a corporate background, which we'll get into, which is great. A lot of you have asked me for stories of people who left the corporate world to pursue entrepreneurship. So a couple other cool things. Misty lives in Harbor, Oregon, and has lived there for 3 years while the business runs back in California and Nevada. And in that time, in the time that she's completely removed herself, the restaurant has grown, or actually doubled in that time, seen its biggest growth. So anyway, I'm just really, really excited. Thank you so much for coming on, Misty.
Thank you, Sean. I'm so glad to be here. I hope I can add value to the viewers and the listeners on the podcast.
Oh, you're going to in an immense fashion, especially if anybody owns a restaurant or is thinking about getting into it. Question for you. So you told me prior to this starting that you had a corporate background. What were you doing prior to getting into the restaurant business?
Well, I was in advertising and marketing. I was a partner and a vice president of public relations in a regional marketing firm. I was enjoying it. I was having fun. I was doing media stuff, but it didn't resonate deeply in my soul. And prior to that, I was actually a press secretary to an attorney general and to a governor. So I had this deep background in politics and public relations at the corporate level, and I loved serving clients, but again, it didn't nourish my soul in the way that I knew something could.
So you didn't wake up every day going, whoa, let's do this.
Exactly. I loved all the people I worked with. I think most entrepreneurs can kind of relate to that. They love the people. They may not love the grind every day. And they realize, I think most of us have the same bug. We see the bigger, better thing. It's the BBD, right? The bigger, better deal in the background, but it's because it's something we know we can create. We have that creative sense about us. And so there's always this longing, this reaching for what's out there.
So what inspired you to make the leap?
Well, this is one of those crazy things. My husband and I used to go to the Squeeze In restaurant on a regular basis and just loved the food. Absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. The place is known for omelets and great big salads, and it makes my mouth water to say just crazy awesome grilled cheese sandwiches, which have always been a favorite of mine, right? They're so good. So we loved this place, and literally on our pillow talk at night, we would lay in bed and talk about if we could do anything together, just the two of us, anything at all, what would it be? And we never said, gosh, we'd own a little cafe, or gee, we'd like to have a restaurant. We called it out specifically. We said, we'd like to own the Squeeze In restaurant in Truckee, California. We probably laid in bed and said those words for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
And then out of the clear blue sky, serendipitously, I'm in a meeting, a public relations meeting, with the governor's rep, the director for Homeland Security, which is really kind of weird, right? This is cognitive dissonance. He's a lieutenant colonel in the Army National Guard, and he owns this little restaurant that's affectionately known as Hippie Land. It just was very weird.
How funny is that?
Yeah.
The restaurant's actually called Hippie Land?
It's called Squeeze In.
Oh, okay. So
it's sort of known as Hippie Land, yeah.
So you were working with the owner in your job? Is that right?
In my job, yeah. I was making a proposal to him to do a public relations, public information campaign for Homeland Security.
Got it.
And the other partners weren't in the meeting yet, and I just kind of said to him, hey, Jerry, how's the Squeeze In going? And it was real weird. The conference room was completely empty, and he gets down low. It's just him and me, and he gets down real low, and he goes, Misty, it's going real good. He's like whispering. And he said, I think I might want to sell it. And I mean, truly, I was speechless. My heart just started racing. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, he's going to sell the Squeeze In, you know?
Yeah.
That's all I could think of for the rest of the meeting. And literally the
Were
next...
you pitching him on something? You were pitching him on something for Homeland Security. It had nothing to do with the restaurant.
Right.
And you knew prior to having that conversation that he was the owner of the restaurant.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
And did you go into that thinking there may be some sort of opportunity to strike that conversation? Or did you already know him prior to this pretty well?
Actually, Gary, my husband Gary, had planted trees for this guy for years. This is how we got our introduction to the Squeeze In. Gary used to be a heavy equipment operator, a big tree planter, and a foreman, landscape construction foreman. And he would plant trees at this guy's house. And every time he would plant a tree, the guy would give him a Squeeze In business card. And on the back it would say, "Take your family to breakfast at my restaurant." And so the first time we went up there, we're like, this is awesome. Or, you know, to put it in SoCal 1970s terms, this is bitchin'. So we loved it. And I knew I knew him and knew of him a little bit at the time of that meeting, but I was really stunned when he said the words, "I think I'm going to sell it." And then he followed it up, "I'm not going to put it on the market or anything. I mean, just kind of quietly, I'm thinking I might sell it."
Wow.
So,
okay, so where does that go from there? So you have your meeting, you pitch him on the Homeland Security deal. The whole time you're focused on the Squeeze In the back of your mind.
Exactly.
You probably got out of the meeting, called your husband. You're like, you're not going to believe what just happened.
Exactly. I raced down the hallway. I mean, like it's all business like at the end. You know, it's the governor's guy and everybody's shaking hands in their leather briefcases and their suits and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so nice to see you. Thanks a lot. And like the door closes. Bam! I go down the hall, slam the door, and I call Gary. I'm like, "Gary, oh my God, the Squeeze In's for sale!" And I think I left work early that day because I wasn't focused on anything else anyway. In fact, during the whole pitch meeting for the Homeland Security, I was doodling. I was doodling Squeeze In. I was drawing little suns. I was making, because the logo, this is not a very good picture of it, but maybe you can see that there. The logo for the Squeeze In has the sun and a peace sign and a moon and stars. And I was like, I was in the stars. So
how funny. So you call your husband and he's probably excited too.
Oh yeah.
How do you get from there to purchasing it? What happened in
Well, first off, we didn't sleep that night. Seriously, I laid in bed. I was like, my eyes were wide open and all night long. It's like the wheels are turning in my head. And I know the guy's a lieutenant colonel, so I know he's up early. I know he's up at 5, but you don't call a guy on his cell phone at 5 in the morning. So I wait, tick, 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 tick. And when the clock struck 7 a.m., I called him and I said, "Hey, Gary and I are interested. Were you serious about selling the Squeeze In?" And he said, "Yeah, I am." And oh God, he puts all the stuff together and he goes, "You and Gary are the perfect people. You guys would..."
You gotta be kidding me. I'm getting goosebumps here.
I know. It was truly just like that. And so began the journey. That was in July of 2003. So literally 10 years ago. And it took us about 4 months to research, negotiate, hammer out a deal. And we were announced in December of 2003 and literally took over ownership on January 1st, 2004 in the middle of a blinding snowstorm. It was awesome.
Oh, gosh. How cool.
Yeah, it's been a great journey. One I would never, ever trade out. It was awesome.
Can I ask, just out of curiosity, I think, and I'll just ask and share whatever you can or whatever you feel like sharing. With that deal, was it a big cash deal up front, 100% ownership, or was it more of a buyout where you gave him some cash and then over the course of a year or 2 or 3, you paid a certain monthly amount?
Absolutely. It was exactly that. We leveraged everything we had. It took us several months to figure out what do we have that we can liquidate. Where can we get enough money to make a sizable and meaningful down payment? So this guy owned the building and the business. And
were you buying both?
Just the business.
Okay,
yeah, just the business. Although we would love to buy the building someday. That would be the icing on the cake. So we got together as much cash as we could, and the rest of it we asked them to carry a note, and they did. And I'm really thrilled to tell you we've got 5 payments left. So
still to this day?
Yeah, we've been carrying that note for 10 years. It was a huge purchase. It would be sacrilege to say the price that we paid for the business, but let me put it this way. It was close to $500,000.
Got it. And just out of curiosity, what kind of revenue was it doing at that point annually prior to you taking over?
Just prior to us taking over, it was doing $535 per year.
Okay, so is that a typical restaurant deal, about a year's worth of revenue?
Some would say it's high, some would say it's low. It's really one of those things. It's
Case by
very
case deals.
subjective. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very, very subjective. And, you know, if someone were to come and buy the restaurants from us now, the four of them now are doing about 4.2. So, you know, I don't know that we could sell the company for 4.2. I think we probably overpaid a little bit. I'm
Originally.
okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that because the business has paid for itself and paid us handsomely and paid for its growth, you know, and
Yeah,
paid.
yeah, no, I get it. I mean, those
Yeah,
deals,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're always up for interpretation,
Right.
you know, whether it was a good deal or not. But without the deal at any price, you wouldn't be where you are today. And I'm sure well, what you guys, for those of you that are listening on the podcast and aren't watching the video on the website, what you can't see is that Misty is sitting on top of a cliff right above the ocean. And prior to us starting this interview, she gave me a tour showing me where all the surf is. And God, how
You know, I'm going to just turn the camera a
yeah, can
little.
you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, let's just turn it so we can see. So where you're sitting right now, for those of you that are looking on the video, you're literally sitting on my desk.
Oh,
And so this is the view that I've had. And I'd love to tell you about these last 3 years and why that particular view has been so incredibly meaningful to me. I mean, I've watched storms come through. I've watched pelicans dive. I watch whales. They're so distracting. They're breaching. They're
yeah.
blow.
For what you guys can't, what Misty hasn't told you is you're looking at the ocean. You're sitting on her
Yeah.
desk looking at the
Sorry,
ocean.
yeah,
I can
you're
see,
looking at the ocean.
as a surfer, I can see sets rolling in, and I'm just like, ah.
Yeah, you're looking at the Pacific Ocean from one of the furthest westernmost places you can go in the United States, in Hartford, Oregon.
God, yeah.
Yeah,
How,
it's been pretty fantastic.
how cool is that? Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. So you buy the restaurant back in,
Right.
Is it 2004? Was your first January 1, 2004?
Yep.
You take over, and you had no experience in the restaurant business, right?
Well, my folks had owned a restaurant when
Oh, they
I was
had.
a kid. Yeah, so I kind of grew up a little bit in the restaurant business. My folks they actually started a restaurant in the Southern California town of Upland. The place was called The Super, spelled like soup. And The Super was a family place. We literally lived upstairs. Mom, dad, 6 kids, and grandmother all lived upstairs, and the restaurant ran downstairs. We did that probably, I think, for 7 years. Most of my teen years were spent there. And then, you know, like everybody, yourself included, of course, I had my time as a server and a host in restaurants over the years, but I had been out and away from restaurant work for probably a good 25 years
Oh, wow.
before I came out to own the Squeeze Inn.
But it wasn't like you were walking into something that you didn't have. I get it. You had a little bit of experience
Right.
By growing up around that.
Right.
So tell me about that first year. What was that first year like taking over? Did you have customers who were genuinely excited you took over, or did you have
Yeah.
people that were disappointed and that were loyal to the general? Or
No, it was really thrilling for us. It was some of the hardest work I've done in my whole life.
that first year?
Yeah, because I worked on the business and in the business every single day. I mean, I
Yeah.
did take a few days off here and there, but, you know, it was literally serving guests, pouring coffee, doing the drawer, mopping the floor, cleaning the bathrooms, doing the orders, taking the inventory, and then going home at night and building the systems, writing the operations manual, you know, figuring out how to make it more efficient and more profitable. And that's tough. You know, it's tough, first of all. I mean, any entrepreneur will tell you, we all go into it for the love of what we do, but we also have to work not only in our businesses, but we got to work
You work
on
on
our
it. Yeah.
businesses. And, you know, that sometimes is the hardest thing because we get this little, you know, this mindset and we put these blinders on and we say, well, no one can do it better than I can. Actually, they can. You'd be shocked how much better they can do it than you. And, you know,
I love. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
it's true. I mean, and as an entrepreneur, what I've discovered is I can climb the ladder and build the ladder at the same time if I'm working toward developing the people with me, elevating the people with me, so that as my dreams grow and pursue and get bigger, their dreams can grow and pursue and get bigger, and I can help them on their path as well.
Right. This is so funny because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually a little distracted looking at something. Just to tell you this, and I wanted to kind of get some clarity because it was interesting. You said that first year was one of the toughest ones, but there's a restaurant, and this is like, it really kind of hits home a little bit for me.
Yeah.
Your story in a way that there's a restaurant here in Santa Barbara called Arigato Sushi, and It's a decent sushi place. Has a great atmosphere. There's, I think, a little bit better sushi here and there at different places, but atmosphere-wise, they definitely have the best one for a sushi restaurant here. Yeah. And I have been there countless times, probably 20 times in the last year.
Yeah.
And literally every single time, with no exception, the owner has been there. And that could be at 5 o'clock at night. It could be at 10 o'clock at night. He is always there. And I said to my wife, one time we were in there, I said, do you think it's crazy, like I do, that this guy is always here? And he's doing what you were mentioning. He's serving waters. He's bringing drinks. He's bringing food. He's picking up empty plates. He's seating people. He's working the hostess stand. He's working the register and all this stuff. And she said, no, I just think it's great because he's passionate about his business. And, for me, I feel like it's irresponsible in two ways. One, that I can't remember, but I think he has a ring on his finger, meaning he's married. And he's probably in his mid-40s, which means he probably has kids.
Yeah.
If he's married. Just an assumption, but he's leaving somebody at home. And then on top of that, he's probably got 50 employees in this restaurant that are dependent upon him because, what I told my wife, it's almost irresponsible in the sense that if he were getting a car accident and was not able to come into the restaurant and work, there's a good chance because he's so actively involved that it would fail. Because he doesn't have anybody to fill that role. I've never seen, everybody there is either a waiter or a hostess or a cook. I've never seen anybody who's kind of like a management role. And I told my wife, he got into the business to, probably for a number of reasons, but I would think A, monetary reasons, but B, to create a great environment for people to, to kind of help make people's lives better by giving them a great environment, serving them great food. And he's really doing his mission kind of a disservice by not training somebody to do what he does and then either focus on opening more restaurants or just enjoying life a little bit more,
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I absolutely couldn't agree with you more. I mean, one of the things that I really believe is, you've got to delegate, supervise, and educate to the people that are working with you and help them on their path as well. I love the term that you're using, that he's doing them all a disservice, and he's doing himself a disservice too, because if you're so strung out on your work that you don't have time for contemplative silence, to go out to nature, to surf, to hike, to hang out on the grass with your kid or your dog or whatever, you don't get the opportunity to, that's called recreation, right? And if you stop and break that word down, it's recreation. You're recreating your opportunity to give and love and serve by recreating. And when you don't do that, you can't give from an empty cup. So you have to fill your own cup.
Such a good point.
Yeah, and so I agree with you. It's a disservice. And then on the other hand, I get where he's coming from. If in fact this is the way he's living his life, I get where he's coming from as a completely driven entrepreneur. And what I'd like to do is send him a copy of my book when we're done with this.
You know what?
I'll mail it to you and let you take it in the next time.
I will, and it'll be really awkward, but I don't care because maybe it'll help him.
Yeah.
So you know what I'll do is I'll just tell him I was doing this interview with a great restaurateur. Is that the right word?
Yeah, that's right.
And you came up, and I'm not going to say why, but anyway, she gave me this book to give to you. Have a great day.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
It'll be weird, but he knows me by name now, which is great. One of the great things about always being there. It's like, hey, Sean, right. I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
Which is awkward.
Well, it's
but anyway.
a Japanese name. It would be nice because arigato is a Japanese word, of course, meaning thank you.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He's nice. I don't know. I do feel like it's irresponsible in a lot of ways and that there is a better way. And we're going to uncover that with you right here. So anyway,
nice. You
work a year, one of the hardest years of your life. You're working in the business. You're working on the business. At night, you're creating systems and manuals. How was revenue that first year? Did revenue grow? Did it decrease? Did you change much in the way the business ran from a menu standpoint or the signage or?
Some, yeah. We really wanted to. The restaurant was 30 years old when we bought it, and it was failing somewhat. I don't think failing is the right word. It was struggling. It was definitely struggling.
Why? In the sense that sales were below cost?
The sales were good, but there were low. There was no accountability, and there were zero systems. I mean, this is unbelievable, but I really want you to hear this. When the phone would ring, the incoming phone, right? Like somebody calling in, hey, what's your hours? The waitresses would run to a payphone in the hallway. That was the incoming
Oh
phone
my
line.
God, you're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. I mean, like straight out of the 1970s, right? Which is when this business started, was in 1974. So
A payphone, though. How
a
brilliant is that?
payphone, yeah. I mean, they don't even exist anymore. Although in this town in Harbor, I swear, Eagle Scout honor, whatever, there are phone booths
Oh, how amazing.
in this town. Yeah, I need to go get some pictures of them because they're pretty amazing.
We actually
So,
have an antique one at our house.
oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. I would love to have one of those too. That would be great. So, there were zero systems and zero accountability. So, unfortunately, things were walking out the back door. Deposits were forgotten. Oh gosh, gee, maybe I have $6,000 in cash. I think it might be in a drawer somewhere. I'm not even
Oh
exaggerating.
my God. I'd have
Yeah,
a heart
so
attack. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, in the months leading up to the purchase of the business, one of the things that I did, and it was real hush hush, no one knew it was for sale. So, I would drive from Reno to Truckee. It's about a half hour, and I was in marketing and public relations. So, I would show up there in this cute little hippie town in my business suits and my pumps with my briefcase and my laptop, very much out of place for the squeeze in. And I would sit there and work, right? So I love air quotes. I'm taking notes the whole time. I'm like, wow, there's one for the cash register, one for me. I saw that going on. I saw servers making
You're kidding
deals.
me. People
No.
were putting money in their pocket in
Yeah,
plain
sure
sight and you
were.
were watching it?
Yeah, they didn't know. I mean, they had no idea, and most guests wouldn't really be paying attention, but I was literally there doing recon.
Yeah.
I'm there doing recon. So I saw that kind of stuff. I heard servers talking about, well, my son needs a new set of snowshoes. Why don't we just trade out, 3-4 breakfasts and then you can hook him up with snowshoes? Well, that would be fine if she was paying for the breakfast, but she wasn't. She was just trading out from the restaurant to the owner of the
my
ski
God.
shop. Yeah,
Wow.
so there was a lot of, one for the company, one for me. Then the lack of accountability. There was no tracking of guest checks. It was just loose. It was very loose. And so going from revenues of 535 the year before we bought it, the year we took over, our first 12 months, we did 660.
And that was probably, it could have even been a decline, but you were actually accounting for all of the sales.
Exactly. So there was not really a way to see, because now we're accounting for all the sales. We're implementing systems to track guest checks, to track inventory. I mean, there was one day I went to one of the servers' houses and I was like, oh my gosh, the plates are from the restaurant. The glassware is from the restaurant. Everything. I mean, the refrigerator was full of stuff from the restaurant. I was like, this is insanity,
And she didn't think twice about you being in her house and seeing all that?
I guess not. I mean, she had been there for a really, really, really long time. And I think there was just this sort of tacit approval that kind of behavior was okay. It was, it was definitely time to move it into, this is a business and it's got a purpose and it's got to be efficient and accountable and it's got to have leadership. And that's what we did when we stepped in.
Did you start with firing a lot of the employees?
We didn't. Even with that knowledge, knowing that it was a 30-year-old restaurant in a tiny town, there were 14,000 people in the town of Truckee. You don't want to go in there and piss off everybody and let everybody go. So we just went in. There was a new marshal in town. We just came in and we just developed rules, and everybody knew immediately. As soon as we were introduced, they were like, "Oh my God, she's been coming in here every week for the last 5 months. What in the world has she seen?" So people shipped up and shaped up pretty fast. None of those people, by the way, are still with us. One guy actually from that old era is still with us, and he was probably the one incredibly diligent and honest person that we had on the whole team. He's still with us. He's a
they've moved on to other restaurants where they can still milk the cow.
Right.
Yeah. How crazy is that? So the only guy who was honest never affected him, so he stayed there and he's probably happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
And did they just quit over time? Those employees that were.
Some of them quit over time, and some of them were encouraged to move on.
Did you catch anybody doing anything bad after you? I'm sure some people had to carry those habits and try and get around your new systems.
Yeah, they didn't. I was real surprised. They were honorable. I mean, I think that they realized they had skated for a long time.
Yeah,
and maybe
over.
for them, there was, I would have to think that for some of them, there was some comfort even in the development of systems, in the structure. I think everybody needs boundaries. And
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, that seemed to be okay.
Okay, so year one, you jump up roughly 20%. Not bad.
Bingo.
For year one. But did you ever stop and think, well, this may not be a true growth. It could just be more
Accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been. I don't know which, which it is. Actually, I do know some. I know a little bit. I mean, it could have been straight up revenues. It could have been because we did literally walk in and be introduced, like, this is Gary and Misty Young, the new owners, and we literally had the menu reprinted during the transition. So it was like, good morning, it's nice to meet everyone. These are the new menus. They're going on the tables. Actually, we were introduced at the end of a shift, and the next day we took over. These are the new menus. They go on the tables tomorrow, and the prices jumped just like that. Day one, when we came on board, we raised the prices about 7%.
Well, that's not much.
Not much, but I mean, so let's just say 7% of that 20% growth increase might have just been due to price increase. 13% of it, or maybe 3%, was due to accountability, and maybe 10% to growth. I don't know. We did get a substantial amount of just interest because the place had been there forever. It's a very well-loved restaurant. It still is, I'm thrilled to tell you. It has almost a cult-like following. So a lot of people were thrilled and interested and couldn't wait to come in and see the new owners and see the minor changes. You asked me about changes. We didn't do a ton, new menu, but it was only new prices.
No decor changes or interior? No.
Not really. Not until we really started tweaking. Our goal was to keep the upfront hippie, cool, laid back, relaxed SoCal feeling atmosphere, and behind the scenes tune up from Gilligan's Island to IBM.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so after year one, you guys, do you say 630? Is that right?
660.
660.
Yeah.
Would you have been scared if you had done 666?
No.
And you said 4.2 this year.
Yeah.
Okay, year two, so that's a massive jump. Year two, and year one, did the work ease off towards the end of the year as you were getting your feet wet, getting systems in place?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, year one, I'd say really years 1 and 2. Year one was just amazing. Yeah, year one was amazing just because the learning curve was so steep. There was nothing in the way of systems. This is crazy. And I told you about people having to run to the payphone in the hallway. Check this one out. There was no schedule. People just knew when to work.
You're kidding me.
No, there was no written schedule anywhere. They just knew when to work. So there was some agreement among people. Well, I'll open on Tuesday and you'll close on Wednesday. And I was like, well, where's the schedule? Well, she knows when to come in. Well, yeah, but I don't know when she's coming in. Where's the schedule, kind of a thing. So literally we had to implement from the bottom all the way up to the top, and then develop.
Jeez, you had your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I did. I used to say at that time, I'm like, see these black circles under my eyes? I earned them,
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So first 2 years were pretty tough. Did year two, did you see a further increase over that 660 amount?
We did, and I don't have my spreadsheet in front of me. It was in the sevens. I want to say It was like 729. I mean, and now, the upside is now we're just over $1 million per year in that location. Yeah, and here's the thing that's really cool. Remember what I said earlier? It's 10 feet 2 inches wide. It's 10 feet 3 inches wide. It's 62 feet deep. It's like a tiny hallway with tables.
Is that 600 square feet?
Yeah, that's 600 square feet of dining room space, about 650, I think. And so, yeah, it's tiny. There's 12 tables. One of the things we did do was add a 13th table. So the restaurant seats
for square footage, 51. If I'm not mistaken, that's over. Well, at this point, you're close to $2,000 a square foot. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know that number off the top of my head. I should. I've known it before, but right now I can't think of what.
Do restaurants like retail, do they track growth by square foot or sales by square foot?
A lot of them do. Yeah, they track by square foot. There's a lot of different ways to track.
That would seem to me like you would be in the top 1%.
Well, it's real unusual. Here's the other thing that's crazy. This restaurant's closed more hours of the day than it's open.
Right, because you're open, what, 6 to 2? 7
to 2. So, it's only open, for 7 hours of the day. It's just not a huge amount of time to generate that kind of revenue. So, yeah. $1 million a year isn't a huge number for a restaurant in general, but it's pretty good number for a breakfast place.
That's a phenomenal number, I would think. But you know what? I think that goes back to his kind of, we talk a lot in online marketing and just different marketing things that being specific in a niche is better than being broad.
Absolutely.
And when you're known for just having great breakfast and great lunch, I would think that, that plays to your favor versus being open 18 hours of the day or whatever that number, may be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, I totally agree. I mean, and it got us to the point where, I mean, literally we didn't have a website. We didn't have, there was just nothing. There was not a fax machine. There wasn't a copy machine. There was nothing in the way of administrative type systems going on inside the restaurant. So, to build all of that from scratch really meant a lot of work. And if you think about 2004, social media didn't exist. I mean, when did Facebook come on the scene? I think in
2006, I think.
2006.
No, you're probably right. I think it was 2004. I think
it might have been
Twitter was 2006.
Yeah, but I mean, social media really wasn't a buzzword. We didn't know what it was at the time. I mean, if you were going to be really cutting edge in marketing or on the right edge, you had to have a website. So we were blown away to get squeezein.com originally. That was a great thing to do. And to start building our footprint, that helped us actually attract one of the biggest things that happened in our company, in our business, which was we got the attention of the Food Network. Now, we didn't go out
through your website?
Mm-hmm. Well, through our website, and as our social media presence began to grow, I love 4-letter words. I really do. Work is a 4-letter word. Pray is a 4-letter word, and so is play. And so
I can think of a few more too.
Yeah, I know a few more too. I don't usually say them on air, but whenever something new would show up that was an opportunity to learn or grow, and grow is another 4-letter word, I took the opportunity to play. So I played around with the web. I played with Facebook when it first came out. I have a MySpace page. I'm a grandmother, but I've had a MySpace page since, gosh, I want to say like 2006 or 7. I mean, it was real early on. But the long story short is, each time something new came on the social scene, I was out there playing with it. When Michael
Jackson think that helped drive more people?
Oh, I know it did. I know it did.
And I know you were on the Food Network with Bobby Flay. Is that right?
Yeah, Bobby Flay. Yeah.
Throw it down with Bobby Flay. I want to talk about that here in a second, because it's pretty exciting. But
yeah,
and kind of how that came about. You started to allude to that, but let me just cover. I guess just kind of get caught up on the business. So year 1, year 2, you work your ass off.
Right.
But you know what? This is like, and I always see this a lot early in business. People have this energy and this passion.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like me, but a lot of people that I've interviewed, that passion will wane over time, and then it becomes more work, where in the beginning it's a lot more fun. Even though you're working your ass off, it's still fun and you're enjoying it and you're really looking forward to each day.
Right.
Has that been kind of the case for you over time? You don't wake up and you're like, oh, I want to go work 12 hours today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Toward the end of 2006, I pretty much had a meltdown. I was exhausted. I was really tired. That would have been
year 3?
Yeah, well, 2004, all of 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, end of year 3, I sort of had this period of letdown, like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I'm spinning my wheels. The business is doing great.
Still one restaurant?
Still one restaurant.
Okay.
But I'm thrashed. Is this worth it? And of course it was worth it. It just, I had a period in there where I did not even go to my one restaurant for a whole entire 30 days.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I couldn't do it.
Okay. And what happened during that 30 days? Did things fall apart?
No.
Was your husband still going?
Yeah, he was still going, and he would say to me, he's like, do you think you could come in today? I was like, no, I cannot come in. Like, absolutely can't do it. No can do. And I did a lot of reflection in that time. I had some, just some personal stuff and just junk,
like what? Just kidding.
Just the kind of stuff that gets you down,
Right.
And well, our daughter got married that year, actually. And
that's depressing.
There was this huge, wonderful celebration, and it was beautiful and wonderful. And then it just this big letdown, and all of a sudden it's like, and kind of this feeling of, well, did I buy a job? Am I a glorified waitress for a living? Is that what I'm doing? I mean, I was a press secretary to an attorney general, and now I was a waitress. And I was building all these systems, but I couldn't see the growth happening yet,
Out of curiosity, which paid better at the end of the day? Profits from the restaurant as a waitress or press secretary?
They were about the same for a while, and then the restaurant has just kicked its ass.
But at year 3, were you earning more?
By year 3, I was making way more.
Okay, so
then attorney general.
Waitress job has turned into better, but still you're not feeling fulfilled and you're frustrated because you're working your butt off. So was that a shift in that moment?
It was actually. It was a shift in the moment. So what happened? This is where this whole thing started kind of changing for me. I said, God, I've got all this professional experience. I know how to do strategic planning. I know how to do communications and public relations and marketing. And God, I've had all this stuff, and I'm just serving coffee now. And yeah, I'm building these processes and systems behind the scenes, but I'm not fulfilled. And then I just decided I would just take off on marketing. I came out of marketing to buy the Squeeze In, as we discussed earlier, and I was anti-marketing at the Squeeze. I was like, we don't need no stinking marketing. I mean, really, I was like, seriously, like that. I was like, we don't need no stinking marketing. And we didn't. I mean, look what we did. We went from 535 to 660 in the first year, and then we kept growing beyond that.
Did you grow every year?
We've grown every single year.
Okay, keep going.
So I started kind of realizing there was an opportunity here to help save me, right? To help me come out of the depths and get my mojo back, get my groove on. So I launched a birthday program. I launched a database. I had heard about some programs that were doing really, really well with marketing for birthday stuff. And I was like, well, I know how to build a database. I was like an old school geek on databases. So I got a program.
And when you say database, you mean email list?
Yeah, but I really truly built an actual database. I mean,
email list, address, phone number, all that, or
name, address, phone number, where are you from, how'd you hear of us, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the whole bit. True relational database. And I started doing birthday postcards. And within the first 6 or so months, we collected about 700 names. What I'm about to tell you is mind-blowing. So, okay. Go with me.
Get my pen ready. Go.
Get your pen ready, buddy. In fact, I'm going to get a pen too. I've got my little favorite pen here. In the first 6 or 7 months, we collected just about 700 names. And as I sorted through that database, I realized that more than 60%, close to 65% of the people on our list were coming from Reno. So by this time, we're starting to think maybe we could open a second location, right? So
oh my God. So the data that you got from doing this birthday club informed you that people were actually traveling from Reno, or they were passing through Truckee, but they always stopped there.
Exactly. So in my mind, I kept thinking, well, if and when we expand the company, we'll go the Sacramento direction. That's where I figured, right? The people are in Sac. There's 33. At the time, there were 33 million people in California. Gosh, if we go anywhere, we have to go to the Sacramento direction. But lo and behold, the numbers, as you said, informed the decision making, and we started looking in Reno. So in late 2006, we started thinking, okay, maybe what we'll do is we'll open a second location. And in 2007, one day my husband came home and he said, I found our new location. And this had been on the table for a while, but we hadn't said, yeah, we're going to open a new location. I said, what do you mean you found our new location? He goes, yeah, I drove by it today. They just broke ground on it, and there's like a shell of a building up. I want you to see it. I was like, okay. Literally, this is how it happened. He drives by on Monday. I call Monday afternoon. Tuesday, we're down there. Wednesday, we're negotiating. Bam, bam, bam. Just like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the part that's unbelievable, I want to come back to the story about how we opened the second location. If you're interested, we can do that. But here's the unbelievable part. In that first 6 months, remember I told you we had about 700 names? We have almost 70,000 people in our database now.
Holy cow.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. 70,000 people. So we've institutionalized it. We've outsourced it. It got too big, too fast for me to handle. And, one thing that I've been smart enough over the years to say is I'm smart, but I'm not that smart. I'm good, but I'm not that good. When things grow beyond me, I outsource them because
That's such a good point.
I couldn't scale with it, and I don't want to take things down because I'm not complex or sophisticated enough to deal with it. I can launch it, but someone else can take care of the baby.
Yeah, if you're anything like me, I find myself getting in the way oftentimes at a certain level.
Yeah,
things will grow to a certain level, and then I get in the way.
Right, so, exactly. Yeah. So if you have the foresight and the ability to get out of the way, man, that train can really get going.
Yeah. So okay, well, let's talk about this real quick. So you open the second location in Reno.
Right. We found it in 2007. It took us a whole year to put the deal together, get all the money together, do the construction on the thing. And if you think back now in 2007, right, things are rolling along early 2007. By the end of 2007, the market was crashing. Everything was crashing. Everything we were banking on. Friends who had said yes said no. Business lenders who were thinking about us pulled out. The Small Business Administration said no. And by that time, literally at the very end of the year, we were so far down that path it was either, well, we've now invested all this extra money, all this other money into this second location, but the money train stopped and it ran out. And I had to call the builder and say, we're hosed. The money's gone. We're tapped out. We're 6 weeks out from opening. What do you want us to do? And there was a little silence on the other end of the phone, and they came back and they said, well, we'll call you tomorrow. And there was another night where I just flat didn't sleep. And I'm a big believer in sleep. I love sleep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I heard the best 8 words of my whole entire life the next day. When they called me back, they said, we love your vision. We believe in you. And we're going to mortgage the build out to you. Are you willing to do that? And I'm like, well, yeah.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of number are we talking about? Is it $100,000?
$230,000.
Which they probably got half that in expense, I would think, in labor, or even more. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but $230,000. They mortgaged that out to us to build out the restaurant. So they built the hood, did all the plumbing, they put in the bathrooms, they did the flooring and the painting and the the vent.
Did they
and
come with a price tag, like high interest or anything like that, or I guess at this point you probably don't even care.
I didn't care.
You didn't get it done.
If you're going to do it, I'm good to go, because it was either they did it and they moved forward with us, or everything got lost, because we literally leveraged everything. We leveraged the farm, the house, the restaurant, everything. So so we were lucky. We took a bet and it almost didn't pay, but then it did in the end, and here we are now with 2 restaurants in 2008.
Okay, so and this is the beginning of 2008 you open up?
February 1st, yeah.
February, okay. And did that second restaurant, since you had this following of people that were coming from Reno, did the word get out? Or
yeah, the word got out. At the end of the first month, I wasn't focused on the numbers at the beginning. I mean, just the numbers, like, oh, how many guests did we serve today? Oh, gee, what? But I wasn't thinking about the gross. And at the end of the first month, we had done $68,000 in revenue.
Shit, that's a lot.
First month, yeah, first month, brand new restaurant, brand new town. I was thrilled.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Absolutely thrilled.
Hold on. Did you leverage that database you had with all your Reno customers to send postcards and say, hey, we opened up a second location?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, we absolutely
What was that, 500,000 people?
By that time, I think we had, about 1,300. About 1,300 people, because we had 700 and then we just kept building it. And by that time we had about 1,300. And that was the day that we launched the second restaurant, we launched our institutionalized database, meaning that the program is completely in-house. We call it the Egghead Breakfast Club, but we outsource the management of the data. So we've continued to grow it, but the birthday cards, the anniversary cards, the email protocol, all of that stuff is handled by a company now for us that we've retained to do that.
Oh, it's amazing. So, okay. And do you advertise it in your restaurants when people come in?
Oh, yeah. It's all
placard on the table.
Yeah. 4 walls marketing. It's on the table. It's in the menu. It's on our website. It's on our app. It's, we talk about it on Facebook. And here's the thing. I mean, how many times do you open up the newspaper? Maybe Arigato Sushi does this, right? I used to speak Japanese. That's why I have to say arigato. I can't just say arigatos,
How is it again? Arigato?
Right, I have to say arigato. Arigato gozaimasu. I have to say it right. Anyway, how many times do you open up the newspaper and you see something that says, buy one, get one free, or buy the first one and get the second one half price, or, we'll buy your beverages when you bring, buy 2 entrees. We do the same kind of thing, but we don't give that away to the general public. You got to sign on, man. You got to opt in. You got to be part of our herd.
I love it. Okay.
If you want to get the deals at the Squeeze In. And so that's how we market. That is exclusively how we market our business. We don't do any other advertising of any kind.
Other than your email database or your database marketing. Not necessarily just email, but actually direct mail as well.
Yeah, the Egghead Breakfast Club. That's it.
Do you guys do any text promotions?
Sometimes they don't really pay off for us, we've discovered. I'm not sure why, but yeah, we do collect text numbers and people give them to us, but every time we've done them, it's sort of flopped. So we haven't figured that one out yet.
Is anybody doing that successfully in restaurants?
Some are, yeah. I think it could just be my mindset, but I think it's more of an evening thing. Hey, you just got off work. It's happy hour right now. We've got blah, 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 but we're open during work hours, and on the weekends, people are coming to the Squeeze In anyway. So I'm not sure if it's just a day part, a function of the day part.
Interesting. What kind of text messages do you send? It's promotions, I assume, but.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Last year, there's a good example. There was a partial solar eclipse, and Reno was sort of like on that line in the perihelion or whatever you call that, where it was in the line. So we said, hey man, Reno's a big deal in this partial solar eclipse. blah blah, come in and we'll buy you a mimosa. I mean, I thought, dude, mimosas are gonna, we'll buy you a mimosa when you buy breakfast or lunch, but it just didn't convert. So we've done
Interesting.
mimosas a few times, we've done beverages a few times, and it just, every time we try it, it costs a little bit of money and it doesn't really pay off like we know when we send out a postcard. So direct mail, direct response really does pay off. We know exactly what we're going to get when we do that, so we turn the faucet on when we need to.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting. I've opted into a lot of different text campaigns just to see kind of how they market and see if there's anything I can ever learn from that. And truly the only one that I appreciate is from a professional soccer team that reminds me of games. And
Nice.
I always
Yeah.
forget when the games are, and especially living in a different city now. So I get the text and it's like, okay, cool, there's a game tomorrow. And and then I remember to watch it. So anyway,
Nice.
yeah, I've never gotten any good ones from restaurants, even though I've opted into
Like
a
a
bunch.
free mimosa, right? You would use a free mimosa.
Maybe buy one get one free. I would be in for that.
Yeah.
I would be in for that. And I would think days where you probably have a day that's the slowest day consistently,
Yeah.
like a Wednesday or something. I have no idea,
Yeah.
but I would think by doing it on things like that it might work. But anyway, very cool stuff. Okay, I want to later off the call too. I want to share with you some Facebook marketing
Okay.
things that somebody was just sharing with me recently. They did for their business and had some good results. So, okay, moving on. So what are you? Year 5 now? You opened your second location? Yeah.
Yeah, year 5, we opened the second location.
And you did 60, was it 66K that first?
68.
68K.
68,000 that first month.
That first month. So I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and say you did 750 that year.
It was closer to a little over 8. I think it was 812 the first year.
812. God, were you doing backflips?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we were so stoked,
Yeah. And how this is so year 5 in the original Truckee location. Did year 1 in the Reno location beat year 5 at the Truckee one, or were you getting similar results?
Similar results. That was the thing that blew us away. Was like, wow, here we are in a brand new restaurant, and it didn't take long before the new restaurants began to eclipse Truckee. But immediately up to speed with where Truckee was. I mean, we're like, wow, this is a brand new restaurant, and it's equaling a 35-year-old restaurant. And I mean, part of the difference is Truckee is a tourist town. It's heavily dependent on a tourism season, so it's got a huge fluctuation, right? So you can pretty much count it. It's like the faucet turns on June 5th and it goes all the way through September 29th. It's like, and it's on. I mean, it's crazy busy up there.
And that's because it's so beautiful up there during the summer.
Oh gosh!
I thought you were going to say in the winter, but after living,
horse riding and river rafting, it's really gorgeous.
And do you see a bump back again in December, January, February? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's natural snow, for sure you see that. If it's a man-made snow year, not so good.
Yeah, and there are bad years up there.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so year 5, you've done 1.6 roughly with 2 locations. Are you now having to work twice as hard, or have you put good systems in place and managers that you're working actually less than you did in the first few years?
Exactly. So in 2007, we brought on our daughter and son-in-law as our business partners. At the time, we knew we were getting ready to grow, right? We start negotiating for the space in Reno, and we decide, we, being Dad and I, Grandpa and I, we don't have the human energy, the capacity to do what needs to be done. We realize, and we're smart enough, again, if it's going to scale and we can't scale with it, we had to get out of the way. So we invited our daughter and son-in-law in to be our business partners.
How did that go?
This was like, we sit down and we're like, we really want you guys to come on and be business partners with us.
What were they doing at the time?
They were working at the Squeeze. They were already working with us.
Oh, they were working there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like you were ripping them away from corporate jobs.
No. Well, I mean, Shyla, our daughter, was in college, and Chad was, trying to figure out what he was going to do with his life and where he wanted to go. So it just made sense. It was easy to, drive up the hill from Reno. They both lived in Reno, but they made great money. I mean, if you think about it, right, just do the mental math quickly. If it's $1 million a year restaurant and it's approximately doing 20% in tips, there's a lot of money to be made by the staff.
Right. Yeah, I get
it.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were into the cash flow, and so we invited them to be partners with us, and we didn't cut them in on like, you guys are going to be 5% owners. I won't divulge the ownership shares, but let me assure you, they really got a smoking deal. but they worked for every single share they got. Those kids, now these young adults who really now have taken over all the operations. They're just amazing young people, but they took over and they were really the people that took on the growth and the opening and the management, the day-to-day operations of the new Reno location in 2008. So literally, I've been fired twice now from the Squeeze In.
You have?
I have been, yeah. It's been fired twice. So my first firing came about 6 weeks into the new Reno location, and I used to do this thing that I called riding the window. So I would ride the window. I'm standing at the window, where I can, the window's in front of me, the food window, and I can see the dining room out this side and the kitchen on this side. And I'm like, come on. Well, we got 30 seconds on that. And I'm ringing the bell, and table 13 is still in it. And they were like, stop. You're making everybody nervous. I'm like, it's my job to make people nervous. Look, we've got systems, we've got processes, and we've got time frames to adhere to. And everybody goes, we get it, Mom. Chill your jets.
No, get out.
You got it. Yeah. You're fired. So I got fired from working on the floor, and I kind of went back into systems development mode. And this part gives me goosebumps. It makes me want to just bust out sobbing, which I won't do, I promise.
Okay, don't, please.
No, I won't. At that time, we really realized the importance of training. And so in 2007, as we began to get ready to open the new location, we started to develop what I would call our first multimedia blended training program. So there were components that were written, manuals, and then we began to develop videos and quizzes and live in-person training and checklists. There were all these components that we were building. And then
this is with 2 locations?
Right. This was
okay.
with 2 locations. And then
this is training for new waitresses, new hostesses, things like
managers,
that?
Yeah, managers.
Okay.
And as we did that, we realized there was something bigger to the systems than just what I used to say. It was all about processes, systems, and efficiencies. And in that process of talking about process, system, efficiency, I kind of got whacked upside the head and realized that the big component was missing, and it was people, systems, and efficiencies. And at that point, that was that shift point, right? There was the earlier shift point where I realized, hey, I'm kind of not having fun anymore, and I'm exhausted, and I can't go in, and it's 2006, and I shifted into marketing mode. Now I shifted into leadership mode, and I shifted into really thinking about and developing the people and how I could build and climb the ladder at the same time. So we started thinking about further growth and really homing in, dialing down and tuning up our systems for training, and knowing that was going to be the ticket to growing the company.
God, this is so interesting. I'm having getting goosebumps because I feel like I've done some hiring recently, and anyway, just interesting. I'm getting a lot of ideas from this. So
nice.
Keep going. Nice. I love it.
Well, so in that time, I mean, the next thing that happened that was kind of crazy was we got the phone call from the Food Network, and they said, hey, we've seen you all over the place. We've seen you on Twitter, and we've seen you on Facebook, and we see your website. And they didn't tell us what the show was, because that takes the fun out of it, that it was going to be Throwdown with Bobby Flay. They led us down this path that we're going to be doing something fun for Valentine's Day. We've got 3 restaurants. We're doing something called For the Love of Food, and we've got a lunch place, a dinner place, and we want the Squeeze In to be the breakfast place. Would you do a love-in for us? And we said, oh yeah, that sounds great. So we put all of that together, and sure enough, it ends up being Bobby Flay. He comes in, and it was crazy. But the upside of it,
is he as cool in person as he seems?
He's so cool. Yeah. He's so cool. He's nice. He's fun. He's funny. He's handsome. Yeah, it was really.
Yeah, he seems like a great guy.
Great guy. That launched us in a way that I don't think I was ready for.
And hold on, at this point you have 2 locations?
At this point, with 2 locations, and we're dreaming about what could happen next.
Okay,
maybe
so did they come into the trucking one or the Reno one?
Both. They came
really?
in with the idea that we're gonna, highlight this little growing restaurant. We'll start out in Truckee, and then we'll go down to Reno and see how this little company has expanded.
Okay.
In Reno, Nevada. They're from New York, so they did say Nevada. But so they did both locations, and what happened was the attention that it gave to us. Literally, our business boosted by 25% the morning after that episode aired. So it aired on it was, by this time it's now 2009 when we get the phone call from the Food Network in 2008. 2009, we actually do the taping at the end of the year. And in 2010, on March 5th, that episode airs. And the next morning, revenues are up 25%. Bam. And they sustained that level of increase for a year.
Wow. So people saw the show throughout the course of the next year and were just coming in repeatedly over and over. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I mean, like I would walk through the restaurant now. I don't work there anymore because I've been fired. So I would walk through and have my apron on and greet and grip and grin and meet and greet with people and sit down and shoot the shit and have coffee. I just said the S word.
It's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so people would tell me, yeah, we're from Connecticut and we're here in town for a bowling convention, and we took a cab from our hotel. I'm like, wow. We had people from all over the country and world that came to see us because of that, and we leveraged it. We immediately went out looking for the possibility of the third location. And we were able to leverage, hey, here's who we are, here's the systems we have, here's the marketing systems we've created, here's the kind of media attention we've been able to garner, and we were able to negotiate a deal in advance to have the systems built for us and mortgaged back to us instead
of
kind
by that?
Go hat in hand to go and go to a plain vanilla restaurant shell and say, if you build this, we will come. And they did.
Oh, got it. They built it and then they just built it into the lease.
Yep.
Yeah. So and that happens a lot, but mainly when you're more established because you have a track record. So if I own the building, you come to me. And I realize you're going to be a 30-year tenant or whatever, I will invest a couple $100,000 into the build out.
Right.
And we adjust the lease accordingly. Is that right?
Right. Yep, exactly right. Exactly right. So that, helped us launch our third location. So by now,
which was in Reno as well?
Which is in Reno as well.
And how did you decide on that location? Was it a demographic kind of research?
You'll love it. Yeah, no, you'll love it. We fed our database into a plot map.
Oh my God, you're kidding me. And then you realized there was this huge concentration in a certain area that...
Bingo.
Really?
Yeah. Yep, exactly what we did. We fed it into a plot map, and what we saw was in the immediate vicinity of the second location was where most of our people were, and then there were two other pockets. The next one was in South Reno, and the third one was out where we built our fourth location. So, we've been really strategic.
And are you talking about 500 customers, 300 customers, 1,000 that are in these pockets?
There's probably 10,000 in those pockets. Looking back at it,
at that point there was.
I can look at it, but 10,000 in the pocket. Depending individuals. So households, there were probably 5,000 households in that pocket.
Got it. Yeah, that's strong. Okay, so that was, in my opinion, that's a large enough data sample to make that kind of decision. I was hoping you were going to say there was 300 and you just went.
Yeah, no, we didn't wing it. We didn't wing it. It was a very strategic and structured.
Is that a common thing for restaurants to do?
Well, I think the bigger restaurants, we always figured it was smart to try to model success. So if somebody was being successful and we don't have to recreate the wheel, right? If IHOP is in a neighborhood, they did the math.
They did the math. Oh, boom, you got it. But yeah, I would guess your intelligence was even better than what an IHOP. IHOP probably just knows their demographic and then does research. Right. But you have actual customers.
Right. And so we do both. We leverage, if IHOP is there, we know it's good. If Olive Garden is there, we know it's good. If Costco is there, we know it's good. There's a few things that we know. It's like, they have full-on real estate departments. Why wouldn't we take advantage of that in terms of us doing business?
Because your customer demographic is real similar.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So smart. Okay. So you open your third location.
Yep.
And was that year 6, year 7, which would have been 2009, 2010, right?
It was 2011. April 1st of 2011, we opened the third location. So that's now year 7.
And then when was the fourth?
August 18th of last year, 2012. It was our 33rd wedding anniversary the day we opened up that location. That was a fun way to spend our anniversary.
The one on the 12th?
Yeah. No, the one in 2012. August.
I'm sorry, 2012, yeah.
Yeah, August 18th, 2012.
Oh, fun. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, both this third and fourth locations have opened while you lived in Oregon. Is that right?
Bingo, exactly, right.
So I imagine those openings were a lot less stressful than the second one?
Yeah. Yeah, they were a lot more stressful on the young people, let me say that.
Yeah. Yeah. You let them earn their stripes.
Yeah, and it's fun to tell you because I already told you I've been fired twice. Let me tell you about the second time I got fired. This is kind of cool. The first time I got fired off the floor, right? You're stressing everybody out. We know what we're doing here. Back off. So, okay, I get fired. And then I decide it's time to go into strategic mode. So I start, continuing to build on the training systems. I moved to Oregon. And then I'm still involved. I'm still involved in the marketing stuff and in strategic growth in the background and the legal process, looking at trademarking and all that stuff. And I get into this, I don't even know how I end up in this discussion about aprons. So I'm like back and forth. There's this whole discussion about how we, send out an apron to a server and how do we get it back when they get terminated or if they leave us and it's $10 cost and, do we have a form? And finally I get this email and it's from my daughter. And I swear to God, I never have read the whole email because I just burst out bawling when I saw the email. It said, I can't believe you are wasting your level of intelligence and value to this company going back and forth over a freaking apron, a $9 apron. What is this? You're fired. I can handle this. We've been wanting to do this transition anyway. You've been building me up for leadership. I'm ready to take over the company. So you're fired. It's like,
that was literally what the email said?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. But you never read the whole thing because it just probably hurt a lot.
It crushed. It was crushed. Yeah. And even before that, I mean, part of the whole move to Oregon that was really cool was our daughter said to us, we sat down and we were like, man, we're really torn. We really want to go to the Oregon coast, but there's so much going on down here with the businesses and this and that. And she said, Mom, there's not room here for 4 owners.
Get out.
Yeah. Get out. Right.
Too many chiefs in the kitchen. She probably was so excited the moment you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, she absolutely was. So it's been a challenge, but I swear, if we hadn't been, as you said earlier, I love this. You said something to the effect of, sometimes I realize if I can just get out of the way, things can happen. And that's what happened for us. We had to get out of the way and create a leadership vacuum so that our daughter and son-in-law, our business partners, could fill that vacuum and finish their growth process as the leadership and the operations people for this company. And they've done a tremendous job. I mean,
it sounds like, you've gone from 660 year one to 4.2, you said roughly this year?
Yeah.
And you're looking at opening a 5th location?
Yeah, we're negotiating right now on a lease in San Diego. And here's a cool thing. I'm not doing any of the negotiations. I personally, I'm chairman of the board of this company. I didn't go look at the space. I'm not in it. I'm not in on this deal. I mean, I'm in the background. I'm paying attention. I go to conference calls, but does
it make you nervous at all?
A little bit, but they have shown over and over and again their ability to be good leaders. And I mean, I study leadership a lot and I train in leadership. And in fact, my daughter sits in my leadership training because she says to me, who else has a certified John Maxwell leadership coach as their business partner?
Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
She says, I'd be foolish not to do it. So they've done a really good job. So we're negotiating now for San Diego. And in this 3-year period here on the Oregon coast, one of the things I've been able to do is to help develop our next phase of growth, which is franchising. So we've retained a firm. Again, I'm not that smart. I'm not that sophisticated. We outsourced it. We took our entire operations manual, the training program, the format program, which is what we call our training program, and all of the systems behind the scenes, and we sent it all to them and blew their minds with it. They said they'd never seen anything so organized ever in their course of business. Which
God, I want to see it.
Good. I know.
I'll
show it to you. And so we're literally on the verge right now where the uniform franchise disclosure document is in legal review and the final audit is conducted right now
and they will start selling franchises for you, this firm?
Yeah, probably within the next 10 days, less. If I can have my way, it would be by Friday of this week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, how cool is that? So, okay, just out of curiosity, though, the San Diego location is there's a big distance between Reno or Truckee, between here and there.
Right.
I assume that either
you're... We have some people in our database in San Diego already, do you think?
Do you really?
Yeah, we do.
Was that the reasoning?
It's not a lot. There's about 100 people in San Diego that we already have. So, we'll start working those people. As soon as we've got that location, we'll start working with those folks and asking them, help us. And the way people are about this company, as I said earlier, it's got a cult-like following. They'll be into it. They're going to want to help us.
I've yet now here's the thing. I'm married with kids now, and so I don't. It's a little bit more of a challenge to go to breakfast on the weekends.
Right.
But during the week, I do get to go surf a lot with a friend, and we go eat. And there's one place that has these great breakfast burritos, but I have yet to find in Santa Barbara a really good breakfast place, and where I can go and just get. Well, I take it back, but there's nothing that really jumps out as the place to go. So I can see if you guys. I mean, I'm sure your food's amazing with the kind of revenue you guys do, with the kind of business you have. I would imagine the breakfasts are amazing. The lunches are probably really good. But I get it. I mean, that's one of those things that I don't know the breakdown, but I would guess most restaurants focus on the lunch dinner crowd because the revenues seem like there could be more potential there.
Well, and I think this is something that really sets us apart. You know, Sean Malarkey and his family is in our demographic. You know, we're looking for people with kids. And we're looking for people in my demographic too. I mean, current research in the restaurant business says that there's two demographics you ought to be going after. One is Gary and Misty Young, right? They're boomers. We're on the tail end of boomers. We've got a little money. We have no kids at home. We have grandkids. And in our database, actually, our database programming is so sophisticated that we can take our group of 70,000 individuals and we break them down. And we know what the percentage is of what we call boomer barons. We know what our maturing wealth people are. We know that what are the singles category, the students category, the families. I mean, we've got this stuff all broken down. We know who spends what, how they spend it, when they spend it. I mean, we're not sophisticated that way, but our program is, and we pay attention to it. So you and us are two of our primary targets.
Wow.
One, because you want to go out with your family. I mean, most people in the younger category with kids, they're kind of sick of, dump the kids to go to school, then they dump the kids to the after school program, and then they dump. They like to have some time with their kids. And they don't really want to go out and spend $200 for a dinner out. But if you can go out for breakfast on a Saturday morning and take your kids to a place like the Squeeze In that's going to bring a basket of toys to the table, that if your kids are in the least bit grumpy or gripey, is going to deliver a little fruit on the house or some toast on the house. Hey, come and touch parent on the shoulder. Looks like the kids are hungry right now. It's going to be a few more minutes. Can the kids have this toast? Well, yeah. Can the kids play with these toys? Well, yeah.
Do you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how smart. Yeah, we don't get that kind of attention anywhere we go, so I could see why that could create a cult-like following.
If a Squeeze In shows up in Santa Barbara.
Come on, let's do it. I would be so welcoming that. Literally, I had friends in town. I had 7 good friends in town a couple months ago, and everyone to go get a good breakfast. My wife and kids were out of town. I had friends come over for that time, and I said, crap, I don't even know where to go. I mean, I am new here, and there's probably some place, but there's nothing that jumps out. Anyway, so very cool. Well, this has been like, Misty, pretty. There's so much we didn't even touch on that I want to do a follow-up interview at some point. It'll be interesting to see kind of where things take off for you. But just to kind of recap, I mean, we said this earlier before. How many hours on a weekly basis are you putting into the business that you are still a majority owner, right? You and your husband?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are still majority owners, which means out of 4.2 million, you're getting a majority of the profits to some extent, right? How many hours a week do you guys put in now?
Well, in the actual restaurants, 0. We don't work at all in the restaurants. I still do work on the restaurants, and on the restaurants, it's 10 hours a week, and in the restaurant industry in general, doing leadership and coaching and development of other people, it's a grand total. I work about 30 hours a week.
That's phenomenal. But the business that's paying you the money, or the bulk of your revenue, you don't really work on it all anymore.
No.
Which is unbelievable. Somebody might be listening and think that, you've only been able to do this because you have family on board. Mm-hmm. Is there any truth to that, do you think? Or do you think you could have hired great people?
I think we could have hired great people. What my thinking is that the system for training that we did, and this is what's going to enable us to franchise. I mean, we couldn't franchise if we didn't really believe in our systems, right? I mean, I like to make this little pyramid, right? So we elevated to here, and when we elevated, our young people elevated. And now that we've elevated them, they don't work in the restaurants anymore either. So this is really key. None of the partners cooks, cleans, washes, serves, buses, tables, does drawers, none of us. So now the younger people, the younger partners only work on the business as well. So none of us work in it. We all work on it. They work on it specifically. But the training, so we elevated, they elevated, the managers elevated, and this training program continues to elevate with us. And now that same training program is going to be used to train new owners. So we now will train owners to go out and do what we've all done on the floor, in the back of the house, in the front of the house, with our guests and with our associates.
I love it. And you've got that in place. It's interesting, two things. Number one, you mentioned that, I don't know if you heard Brianna Borton from the Dragon Tree Spas, one of the interviews I did, one of the first interviews I did. She opened an airport location for a spa. It was her second location. And the airport authority wanted, in order for her to win that deal, wanted to see all these training manuals, policies, and procedures, all that stuff. And so she said it was the biggest nightmare providing them with everything they needed.
Right.
But that ended up being a key to her success and growth going forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. And yeah, I find that a lot with people who've built these great businesses. They're more traditional type businesses. You know, we have a lot of people who've done iPhone apps and different things. They've built great things that don't require all this stuff. But on the traditional side, you can still kind of achieve the same freedom, but many of that comes from putting great systems in place and manuals. And then you mentioned some people kind of leveling up. Are you taking a manager from a store now and having them open the San Diego store?
We are indeed. The gentleman who is running our Sparks location is actually from San Diego and is moving back to San Diego to open this location with us. So
he's probably excited, huh?
Yeah, he's stoked. He's really thrilled. And our youngest daughter, who's gotten married just a few weeks ago, she's 21 years old. She and her new husband are moving to San Diego because he's been accepted into the Art Institute there. And so it just amazingly how this came together, not intentionally, but this gentleman's moving there and our daughter's moving there. And so she's been with the company since she was 11 years old. She knows it back and forth, inside out, upside down, sideways, left, right, the whole bit. As a 21-year-old.
Is she going to be managing the restaurant or working in it? No.
To just be a server there. But, you know, she's got a lot of institutional knowledge and history that comes with her to do that.
Yeah. And she doesn't want to manage?
I think she wants to, but she needs to season up a little bit. You know, she needs to gain a little more maturity to be able to be respected in that way. We've had her in management before, and she's just last week told me, you know, Mom, it was good to be an assistant manager, but I realized I didn't have quite the maturity level that I thought I had.
That's a pretty mature statement to make.
I thought so too. I'm like, dude, are you 21 or what? 'Cause, you know, it's amazing.
Oh, how cool. Okay, so let me just go back. I want to wrap up with a couple kind of key questions.
Sure.
Number one, can you tell me 2 or 3 things? I mean, we already discussed the manual and that you bring this up again, but 2 or 3 things you did that truly allowed you a whole lot more time and freedom within your business.
The number one thing I did was as crazy as this sounds, I started working on myself. So in 2006, when I had that sort of really gloomy period, I started working on myself and my own personal development. And
is this from more of a mental or spiritual or physical?
All three.
All three? Okay. So that means working out. That means going to Tony Robbins seminars or...
Or I didn't do any Tony Robbins specifically, but I did. I attended a healing school where I learned a tremendous amount about human energy and consciousness and meditation and prayer and intention and all of those things. So I worked on my physical, I worked on my spiritual, my emotional, and my strategic ability.
It's such a unique thing. It's not, it's not, I crafted these manuals that allowed people to train other,
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great answer. And I can truly see the value in that, because I know personally when I'm on top of my game and spiritually, physically, mentally, everything's right where it should be and firing on all cylinders, my business mind thinks differently.
Yes.
And as a result, the business grows in a different fashion.
Exactly. Oh, it's so amazing. It just, and then when you kind of, you get in there and you're in that groove, and then all of a sudden you lose your way, and all of a sudden things aren't going right, and you go, wait a minute, if I get back to my spiritual and mental, emotional, physical, all of that stuff, my strategic mind, all of a sudden you can get back up there. And I think the goal for us as entrepreneurs is to get there and stay there. Sustaining that kind of self-leadership is really hard. Getting it going is hard. Sustaining it might even be harder.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. So true. Okay, so that's one thing. Any other big tips in that regard of things that have really allowed you to work a lot less and enjoy kind of the fruits of your labor and the business
Yeah,
still run well?
absolutely, absolutely. Thinking big, Will Smith, the actor, I heard a quote from him a few years ago that I've never forgotten. He said, well, somebody said, well, why you really think big? And he said, well, why would I think small? What's the point in that?
Yeah, if you're going to think at all.
If you're going to think, keep thinking big. Keep thinking big. There's just no reason not to do it, and I'm a real believer that the universe is obligated to bring us what we most desire. And I make vision boards, I make pictures, I draw things, I put up
Was
little
that
notes.
house on the coast in Oregon part of a vision board at one point?
Absolutely. It hung up on the walls. The physical pictures of this house hung up on the walls of our old house for 8 months before.
That actual house?
Yeah, this actual house.
Was it for rent or for sale? And you drove by and took pictures and said, "We'll buy that one day."
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. So it's just been an amazing thing, and I think.
Can I ask you, at the time you did that, was it something you could afford or envision as a reality?
No.
Cool.
We couldn't envision it. I mean, we could envision it. That's the difference. Yeah, we could envision the reality, but making it a reality was a different thing. It took us a lot of time to put it together. But the day we showed up here and sat out on the deck having our lunch, watching whales, we were like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." This is really cool.
Oh my God, I can only imagine. Okay, all right. And then I always ask this question of my guests, and yours will be interesting because you've actually written one, but in fact, we didn't even get to talk about that. You wrote an amazing book. Actually, we mentioned it earlier about giving it to the restaurant owner.
Yeah.
Your book is called From Rags to Restaurant. Is that right?
From Rags to Restaurants, The Secret Recipe. And I like to sort of summarize that book by saying you can attract success, prosperity, and wealth. And you can do it by applying what I call the 5 irrefutable laws of restaurant success, and they really apply to any small business. And just very briefly, those laws are leadership. You cannot build a great business without leadership, and the hardest form of leadership is self-leadership. We sort of alluded to that earlier, that if you're not growing, developing with a strategic plan, literally putting it on your agenda, what are you reading today? What are you developing today? Are you watching any YouTube videos that are actually enriching you instead of just watching people fall off buildings into trash cans or something? Right? So leadership, operations, financials, in my mind, operations and financials are the real strong, firm foundation of any good small business. Your products and services are on one side and your marketing's on the other. It all forms a star. So there's leadership, operations, financials, product services, and marketing. And I think that star fits within a context that I like to call the box around the star: strategy, tactics, accountability, results.
I love it. I really can't wait to read your book.
Yay.
Don't let me forget to give you my address and send it right away. I'm really excited about it. And for anybody listening, we will link. I'll put a bunch of links on different things that we've covered over on the website at themoneypillow.com, and I'll put a link to your book as well.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. It's getting nothing but 5-star reviews from people like Melinda Emerson from the New York Times, Bob Berg, who wrote The Go-Giver, Jill Conrath. I mean, the people that have reviewed it have blown my mind.
On Amazon?
On Amazon.com.
Did you see their names pop up and you're like, oh my God?
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, Bob Berg reviewed my book. Oh my God.
Did you mail him a copy?
I did, yeah.
You did. Smart.
And he reviewed it. I was stoked.
Very smart. Okay, so I brought this up, A, because I want to talk about your book, but B, are there any books that you've read that have been instrumental in your success or super inspirational or just life-changing or business-changing books?
God. Yeah, it's funny because I'm looking over beyond here. I actually keep a restaurant catering cart next to my desk with I call it the knowledge train. And it's actually full of books. And I keep them literally right next to my desk. And I keep them on a catering cart because we have guests over a lot of times. And it's like, yeah, there's this cart over here with 50 books on it, So I just wheel it out of the room when people are here. But The Go-Giver, which is Bob Berg's book, has been huge for me. The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, another huge.
Yeah.
John Maxwell's The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, huge. His book that literally just came out today, I've had it for 2 weeks because I'm one of John Maxwell's coaches, but it's Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. Huge.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yeah, just came out today. Literally, it's being released like right now. It just came out. But like I said, I've had it for 2 weeks. It's a great book.
Do you know John or have
I
connections?
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I've met him. I've been in personal training with him.
I'd love to have. We do webinars with authors for our audience when they release books. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
they're interested, and we can
Yeah.
move hundreds to thousands of books sometimes, depending on what the author wants to do.
Nice.
But I'd love an intro. I'd love to have him on if there's any.
It would be amazing to get him. I'll see what I can do to help you on that.
Yeah.
So those, I think, the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra.
I have such a hard time with Deepak. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's a little. I've read a couple things of his. He's just too far out there for me on some stuff that I just said.
Yeah. Can't do well. The 4 Agreements is another great book.
People love him though, and I know there's a lot of great stuff there. But all those other books, I have not read The Go Giver, and it keeps coming up when I ask this question on these interviews. The E-Myth I've read. I thought it was a great. Actually, I can't remember what I thought about it. I just know that I've read it, and I've actually got it here. I just brought it into the office today. Actually, brought some books in to put on the shelf. And what was the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership?
21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and that's John Maxwell. And then, of course, Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. There's a bunch of books by Ken Blanchard that are amazing.
What books?
They're old, so people, I think, don't give them credence anymore, but the 1 Minute Manager's fabulous.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Right? It's fabulous. And
it's a quick read, too.
It's a quick read. Gung Ho is a quick read, and it's a good book. Raving Fans is a great book. And then finally, Who Moved My Cheese, which is another one in the Blanchard series. Spencer Johnson, I think, is the co-author on that. But those are some of my go-tos that I recommend and refer people to on a regular basis. Jim Beach wrote a great book. In fact, you ought to interview Jim Beach. His book is called School for Startups, and it's fantastic. It's sort of a 90-day approach to doing a startup, and I would be remiss not to mention Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months by Melinda Emerson. She's done a fabulous job with that book as well. So,
Melinda Emerson, Become Your Own Boss. I've got these I'll put links. I think we got all of them, and the editor will listen to all these and link them all up.
Yeah.
Very cool. And just, you've read a lot of great books. I'm curious if you read Jim Rohn's Leading an Inspired Life.
Shockingly, I have run into Jim Rohn my whole life, and I've never read a single word except quotes that I see on Twitter.
I hear you on that. But that book is probably one of the greatest books I think I've ever read.
No kidding. Say the name of it again.
Leading an Inspired Life.
Okay, I'll order that.
It's one of those that I have a hard time reading more than 3 or 4 pages.
No kidding.
Yeah, because I get so motivated and so inspired with each word that I'm just ready to jump up and be the best dad in the world, or the best business person. Yeah. It's a tough one to read because it just gets you so excited. And anyway, all right. Well, very, very cool. Anything else that we didn't cover? We didn't talk about?
Well, just a great big thank you, to anyone listening or watching the show. Thank you to you. It's not easy doing what you do, Sean, but it's really meaningful. It's really important. So I really appreciate the opportunity to hopefully add value to the viewers and the listeners.
You've done a ton, and I can't wait. I mean, this whole thing is a big mission to me.
Good.
My ROI for the time spent on this and working on the business or surfing or whatever, it doesn't, at this point, it doesn't give me the same ROI, but this is like a topic that's near and dear to me, and because I've got this business where if I want, I can close this interview and go surf right now. And
nice.
I'm actually supposed to this afternoon. I'm debating whether or not to work, as crazy as that sounds, but it just means a lot to me, and I really feel like I honestly, I like to write. I feel like I'm a good writer, but I hate to write, and this will be probably the only book I ever write, and I feel like this can have a major impact for a lot of people. So doing these interviews and kind of sharing your story and all of this, and then later putting all of this into a book, I think is a very important kind of calling that I've had, if you will. So
yeah, that's great. Well, and if it's true that 90% of internet traffic over 2014 and beyond is going to be video, then you're brilliant to be getting ahead of that curve now.
You think I haven't heard that stat.
That
90%.
Is the stat I've heard, and is that not mind-blowing?
That is. So that would mean that, I wonder what that actually means, that 90% of the time people spend on the internet will be watching video or consuming video.
Yeah,
which
that's huge.
It wouldn't surprise me. So, All right. Well, very cool, Misty. I really, really, really appreciate having you on again. This was a you're in a demographic that I haven't had yet. You're the first grandmother
Yay!
I've had on here that's doing this. And so, again, I really appreciate you. I'll shoot you a message when this all goes live. And again, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
You too.